You loved your cabin, hidden in the mountains of Arendelle. For the first time in your life, you felt truly safe. Safe from people, safe from the heartless, and even safe from wolves. A lucky bonus of your seclusion was that the path leading to the cabin was too tricky for wolves to navigate. It felt like finally, after years of heartache and worry, that you had the chance to relax and get on with your life. You had the time to think about your hopes and dreams without worrying that creatures could pop out of nowhere and chase you. You had never had that before. One morning, like most mornings, you stirred from your sleep, comfortable in the folds of your bed as a gentle breeze blew through the window of your bedroom. Spring was here. It was not hot yet, but the warmer air was enough to be refreshing first thing in the morning. You rolled onto your back and sat up, stretching your arms high up over your head as you groaned, working out the kinks from a night well rested. It took a moment to blink away the sleep, but once you were certain you weren't going to drift back unconscious, you pulled yourself out of bed and got dressed for the day. After finally running a comb through your hair, you opened the door to the living room where, as always, Axel was already up and busying himself with making breakfast. When he spotted you in the doorway, he passed you a wink.
Morning, cutie.
Morning, Axel. What, do I have something on my face? You replied, totally ignoring his flirty gesture. You wiped at your cheek as you strode across to the sofa, then nestled yourself within the duvet, still warm from when Axel had been sleeping under it not too long ago. Axel tutted, jabbing at a sausage as it fried on the stove. There was that dark-shrouded heart of yours again. You refused to accept a compliment.
Wasn't being sarcastic.
He looked at you playfully, then caught you on the verge of falling back to sleep in his makeshift couch bed. It wasn't enough that you had your own giant comfortable bed in the other room. You had to take up his bit of space too. He opened his mouth to ask if you wanted anything else, as he had clearly become your servant and footman, but managed to suppress his witty jab when a thought came to him. Being in this cabin was definitely your first chance in a long, long time to relax. He supposed you could have some slack. Admittedly, you weren't using your free time very productively, but he expected that. You were finally free. You wanted to do nothing. Axel wanted you to do nothing. Only, he was very aware that if he had to go away for a mission, you couldn't really leave the cabin. There was a perimeter around the cabin that the Heartless could not pass through, but it was only a meter or so from the decking. Beyond that, your safety was not guaranteed. Really, he wanted to tell you to stay indoors every time he left for a mission, so he knew you were safe. But he didn't have that right. It was your choice to make. He knew you weren't stupid. When he was away, he knew you left the cabin from time to time, but never ventured that far from the cabin, and not as often as you wanted to. Axel had to go away again, but you didn't know that yet. He didn't know how long he would be away. He didn't know how long you would be trapped here. The cupboards were stocked with enough food to last the month. He had never been gone longer than that yet, so he was sure you would be fine in that regard. But now that the weather was getting better, he knew you wanted to explore. During his time with you, whether it was the odd afternoon or a week, he had shown you as many wonders in Arendelle as he knew existed. After he ran out, he had stayed in the cabin and let you roam up in the mountains or down in the valleys by yourself. After the fiasco on your first day in Arendelle, Axel had made it clear that you did not need to fear the dusks that approached. They were only ever there to bring you back to the cabin, or to let Axel know you were in one piece. He didn't want you getting stuck up any more trees running away from them. When Axel was done cooking breakfast, he plated it up, then threw the greasy frying pan in the sink. You eagerly accepted your food when he handed it to you, and he couldn't help but smile that wonky grin of his, seeing your eyes light up as you tucked in.
You seriously get this excited over food?
you said with a mouthful. It's a cooked breakfast. I'm not allowed to cook my own breakfast, so I look forward to the ones you cook. Your tone was decidedly pointed, but Axel could live with that if it meant you wouldn't burn down the cabin.
Duly noted.
He sounded smug. You threw him a side glare, hoping it would dampen his arrogance. It didn't, then carried on eating in silence. When you were done, you carried the empty dishes over to the sink and started washing them. Axel was amazed. You normally put up a fight when it came to housework.
What's the occasion?
He asked. He leaned against the back of the couch to stretch the knots out along his spine. Sleeping on the sofa was doing him absolutely no favours. Excuse me, but I'm always this helpful, you said with a haughty puff of the cheeks. It was kind of cute when you acted stroppy like that. Axel liked that you were getting better at opening up and being playful. Your comebacks never had any bite to them. His droll personality was rubbing off on you, it seemed.
Sure.
He noticed how you turned away from him to hide a shy smile. There was a large clock just behind you on the wall. Axel couldn't help but notice the time. It reminded him that he had to leave. At the very latest, it had to be tonight. The mission started tomorrow, and he had a lot of preparations to get through. For now, though, the mission could wait. He wanted to make the most of the time he had left with you.
Right.
He pulled himself up from the couch with a sudden air of determination.
Leave the dishes.
You glanced at your soap and water-soaked hands. You did not offer to clean the pots after a meal often, but that didn't mean you were going to reject an offer to stop. You pulled your hands from the sink and flicked them semi-dry before Axel ran at you with a hand towel, telling you to stop getting water absolutely everywhere. So what are we doing? You asked, assuming he had a plan by the way his eyes glinted. He did indeed.
Get changed. Winter's gone. We're going for a walk.
Winter was over, sure, but that didn't mean it was warm enough for a casual walk. Heavy snow still covered the mountains, and the air was bitter when the wind blew. Yes, you had your thermals to wear, but Axel seemed to think it was warm and sunny outside by the way he was acting. You humoured him and changed into your thermals. Only, when you reappeared in the living room and Axel saw you in them, he laughed.
What's with the get-up?
You looked at yourself, wrapped up in thick, padded pants, a hat, scarf, gloves, earmuffs, fluffy socks, jacket, shirt, and insulated vest. You may think it's warmer out there, you accused, beginning to overheat already in the warmth of the insulated cabin. But I don't have your furnace of an internal body temperature. Axel chuckled again, plucking the hat and earmuffs off your head.
Hate to break it to you, but we're not going for a walk in the mountains.
You gave him a soft glare. Where did you have in mind?
Arundel isn't quite gonna cut it for this walk. I was thinking we go off-site.
Off-site?
Yeah. Try a different world.
The excited shriek that came out of you made Axel want to stuff your hat in your mouth to shut you up. But you caught yourself before he could jam anything anywhere. Really? You asked in giddy disbelief. The cabin had been your home for 2 months. Axel had come and gone plenty during that time, and had always returned with plenty of stories about the worlds he visited. It made you long to see more. Arundel was beautiful and vast, but there was only so much you could explore this time of year. It was a kingdom that endured 6 months of winter, 6 months of snow and ice. The paths were treacherous, and the scenery did not change much during that time. Axel rubbed his arm, quietly pleased by your enthusiasm.
There's a world I found that's really peaceful. No heartless at all. Thought you might like to see it. Oh, and it's warmer there too.
No heartless, you wondered aloud. If there was an entire world that had no monsters, It sounded miles better than a single cabin. You could go wherever you wanted, whenever you wanted, and never have to worry. Wait, so what if I moved there? Could I?
Whoa, hold your horses. It's not that simple.
Axel held up his hands to curb your eagerness.
We can go there, but it's not all that easy to get in and out of. Plus, it's a peaceful place. Guarantee you'd be bored in a week.
You wanted to be the judge of that. A heartless free world sounded pretty great to you. All right, fine, you conceded. But if we're going somewhere warmer, then let's take a picnic and make a day of it.
Oh, sure.
Axel raised his eyebrows as you began peeling layers of thermals off. Your enthusiasm was a good sign.
I'll pack while you get changed. Again.
He dodged to the side when you threw a glove at him. What a world. What a warm breeze. What a change of pace. You had to admit, Axel was right. If there was one word to describe the 100-acre wood, it was peaceful. The two of you had appeared in the middle of a great woodland, then walked for an hour in no particular direction. It was so quiet. There were no vehicles, no people, and no ravenous carnivores. Birds sang merrily up in the treetops, and somewhere close by you could hear a river running free. This world was impossibly different from Arendelle. You were only glad Axel had told you to change out of your thermals into a cardigan. Compared to the icy mountaintops, you felt like you were in a summer's day. Axel walked beside you, listening to the way you giddily chatted about the scenery, the warm hue of the world, and how at ease you felt. He carried a hamper at his side, filled with scores of food and drink for your picnic. Ask him 3 months ago if he would be on a picnic today, and he would have keeled over laughing. But he was enjoying himself, and had you to blame for it. After a while, your stomach growled. You paused, feeling your face flush in embarrassment. Axel carried on, calling back.
Heard that.
You puffed your cheeks out with a frown, hoping to hide your embarrassment in a veil of anger. It wasn't fooling anyone.
You can't be hungry. We just had breakfast.
That was ages ago. You held your stomach, trying to suppress a second growl. What time is it? Axel stopped, now a fair distance away, to check his watch.
Just afternoon.
He was too far away to see you rolling your eyes, so you threw your hands dramatically into the air instead. Breakfast was ages ago.
It really wasn't.
Axel made his way back to you. The closer he got, the more you noticed his stupid, wonky, annoyingly attractive grin.
It's probably all this walking. You're not used to it.
When he was right next to you, he winked.
Are you tired too? Want me to give you a piggyback?
He turned and crouched down, holding his arms out behind him as if to let you onto his back. Absolutely bloody not, you assured him, brushing past him at a fast pace. You weren't going to let him see how pink your face had just turned, thinking about being pressed against Axel's back with his hands tucked under your butt to hold you in place. Axel smirked as he watched you storm off. He could see the pink tinge to the tops of your ears. He had only been joking about the piggyback. He knew you weren't tired. There was no way a casual walk like this could exhaust a seasoned, heartless evader like you. Then again, having you snuggled against him was a nice thought. It might take a while for you to do it willingly, but it never hurt to throw a flirty, jokey suggestion out there once in a while. As fast as you stomped away, your legs were no match for Axel's longer ones. He caught up to you in no time. Mercifully, he held back long enough to let your blush disappear before coming up alongside you. You gave him a side eye, expecting him to slip another joke in, but he asked if you wanted to stop to eat instead. Some while later, the two of you set up your picnic along the edge of a wide stream. Axel had chosen the spot, making a beeline for it once it was time to eat. You had to wonder how many times he had been here before. Perhaps he got tired of seeing Dusks and Heartless too, and used the Acre Wood as a hiding place. You sprawled out along one side of a large checked blanket with an assortment of food on it, and Axel sprawled out opposite you, mirroring your lazy appearance. His plan had been to walk around as much as possible to give you some freedom before he had to leave for a mission. But this worked just as well. Being lazy outside was much better than being lazy inside, and now that you were here and you were relaxed, he could feel your heart's frail innocent light peeping through the cracks of its dark shield. He often noticed the same thing happening in the cabin when you were eating, just like now, but the added bonus of a warm, heartless and lesser-nobody free world made your heart's light extra clear. It gave you such a relaxed, carefree aura. You caught Axel staring, a strawberry held to your lips. What? You refrained from eating, noting a distinctly softer expression in his eyes than his usually playful, albeit sarcastic stare. It sent a tingle from your heart, up your spine, like your heart was trying to tell you something. You ignored its plea, refusing to acknowledge the way the darkness in you was warping. For years it had stayed solid and protective. There was no way one fiery redhead could crack it so easily. Right? You threw the strawberry at Axel. His expression slipped back into its usual amused state once he realised he had weirded you out. The strawberry hit him on the shoulder, then bounced onto the picnic blanket. Without a second thought, he picked it up and ate it, giving you a triumphant smirk.
Thanks.
He picked up a handful of crisps, eating them while you chose something to replace the strawberry he had stolen. There was plenty to choose from. You were shocked everything had come from the cabin cupboards. You were sure Axel must have hidden some of the nicer treats under the floorboards. You went to pick up a bowl of gummy sweets, but Axel pulled them out of your reach. Pilfering them, he sat up and faced you with his legs crossed. He had a glint in his eyes. "You're hilarious," you said dryly, wondering if he planned to pinch everything you wanted to eat.
Thank you.
He plucked a sweet from the bowl, squidging it between his gloved fingers. You watched with mild curiosity until he pulled his arm back to throw it at you. You flinched, lifting your arms up to shield yourself. "Don't you dare," you warned. You heard Axel chuckle before he threw the sweet into the air above him. You watched it rise, then fall. Then Axel caught it in his mouth with minimal effort. You would have believed he was a pro until you saw the way his eyes bulged in surprise before he passed you a triumphant smirk.
I win then,
he announced flatly. He roused the competitor in you. Damn it. We both know that was sheer luck.
Wanna bet?
Axel enjoyed the chance to goad you. He threw a second sweet into the air and caught it in his mouth like it was nothing.
Beat that,
he said, chewing. You cursed yourself for getting pulled in. You had to wonder if Axel had faked being surprised at catching the first gummy. Either way, it was too late now. You sat up with your legs crossed, opening your mouth wide. You looked an absolute state, and Axel had to suppress his laughter at the many sarcastic comments rattling through his head. He was just happy you were relaxed enough to play along. Armed with a sweet, he flicked his wrist, sending it up above your head. You could hardly see it in the glare of the sun, but you weren't going to let Axel beat you. Spotting it at the last second, you lurched to the left and caught it in your mouth, unperturbed when your hand landed in a pork pie. The victory was too great for you to care. Beat that, you retorted smugly. If it sounded like a challenge, that's because it most definitely was. The two of you took it in turns, tossing sweets to one another at first, then larger or harder food to rack up more points. You hit him in the eye with the grape. You nearly choked to death on a square of chocolate when Axel tossed it too hard, thwacking you in the back of the throat, but all in all, it was great fun. That was, until you missed one too many times and decided to retaliate in the most mature way possible, by throwing a slice of chocolate cake at him. Seeing what you were about to do, Axel scrambled to stand up and backed off, heading towards the stream.
Don't you dare.